Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Nealons, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
It's a hard, solid plastic handle.
What, you're going to get cheap glass? I'm not saying. Come on, Neil.
No, this guy's got to get new tools in, that's it.
Hey, Nathan, did you get the slides I sent you to your Skype account?
I did. Very good.
Oh, good. Yeah, I just wanted you to be aware of it.
I did. I saw them this morning.
All right.
Those Tesla cars are really nice looking, though. I have to admit.
Really? They just look like every other large sedan.
They look very sleek. The one I just passed looks very sleek.
Okay. Till you put it next to an Audi A7, and then it just looks exactly the same.
Oh, yes, I know.
How can we even trust Neil? He's only got one eye.
Number one, I agree with you, right? I think it's a good shape. But it's common as muck. All of the manufacturers, you could pick almost any manufacturer and they'll have a car that shape.
Yeah, but you don't even hear them when they're running. It's like they're not even on.
I mean, I hope they actually put the Cybertruck on the road, because it's one of those times that you go, okay, you've got a new platform that's totally different to an old combustion platform, so you can do whatever you like within reason. You can basically have any shape you want. And the designers have gone, let's make it as much like a standard boring car that you used to as possible. Obviously, that was the right thing to do because they've sold. But then you go, well, it's still the case that you could make any shape you like, right? So when the Cybertruck came out, I was like, yeah, that's more like it. You know, it could do with a bit of refinement, but by the same token, you're like, yeah, completely crazy shape. Why not? Do whatever you like.
So how do they work?
Asking how electricity works, Neil.
So, like, as opposed to what we have in gasoline-run cars, is everything like the same, or the engine? It's got to be different, right?
Obviously, one's a combustion engine, which is extremely complicated. The other is an electric motor, which is very, very simple.
So maybe I need an electric car.
Eyewear. Hey.
Yeah, you need eye goggles, Neil. Eye goggles.
Maybe that's what it is. It looks good, but really,
it uses an electric motor, just like in your battery tools.
Look, this is what Tesla are relying on, but plenty of people get hit in the head and then want to buy a Tesla.
I think that's what it is.
Hey, Nathan, I just posted in Master B 2 slides and 1 short video that my daughter took of a divergent race.
Okay, the video is playing now. Wow, very pretty. Very pretty. So, my first instinctual comment is to say, tell your daughter that she's filming something, as opposed to having a phone call. Just saying.
Yeah, I know. The horizontal, I know.
Kids today with their mobile phony wonies filming like this. TikTok only.
Hey, my wife seen on TikTok that there's 24 hours of darkness in the South Pole, so it's got to be true.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, she did good work. So what's got to be true, Neil?
I wouldn't ask Neil too many questions. He's been hit in the head today.
Oh, that's good.
What happened? The show started?
No, Neil, it's all good. It's okay.
Yeah, you're in character, Neil. Thank you.
Simple stuff. Do you want to buy a Tesla? Yeah, I do, yeah. Yeah, he's definitely got a concussion. Get him to the doctor quick.
Yeah, they said to Neil, how do you want to pay? He said, well, of course, I want to charge it.
Don't make me laugh. My eye is hurting. I feel like a virus. My back of my head is hurting. Oh, dear.
But seriously, go to a doctor.
Speaking of virus, he's annoying in the chat, too. He gets his ass handed to him. I mean, really spanked bad, where he looks like an idiot. And he's all lively in chat like nothing happened.
Yeah, we're dealing with a certain type of personality here, Neil. You know, these aren't your normal, average run-of-the-mill people that we're dealing with, I would say. They're far from normal run-of-the-mill people, in fact, for the most part.
I think he owns a Tesla, so I think that explains it all.
And Nathan, that was some pickup with it. When I listened to it again yesterday, you immediately went, okay, Black Swan. I mean, it was like he got cornered and like Mike Tyson unloaded on him.
It wouldn't work with everybody, again, because Virus is around and knows the argument and has given out his responses and laughed and said refraction. When I bark Black Swan at him, suddenly he freezes up, starts to stutter something out, and I go, yeah, Black Swan, I just repeat it. And, you know, that's basically striking the fear of God into him at that moment, because he knows the arguments. Now, for average Joe, who doesn't, what impact's that going to have? You've literally got to break it down. If the Earth's a sphere, radius 3959, then the distance to your Earth curve edge horizons can only be this far, 1.2 times the square root, etc. You've got to explain the whole thing. But to someone like Virus, very useful. So while you think he's my pet, no. Who else is going to have that kind of reaction when you just have somebody say, oh, I'll just look at the horizon and I see it. It's just assumed to be straight out in front of me, so I can get 90 degrees to the start. That's what Virus said. Then you go, okay, Black Swan. Now, Normie Joe is just going to go, well, what do you mean, Black Swan? What the hell does that mean? I just look at it and it's straight out to the horizon. Then you explain that the refraction response from an anti-flat earther negates your straight line, and they go, no, I've just got a straight line. That's what a normie would do, right? But not Virus. He goes, oh, shit. What am I going to do now? Chuckle my head off and say, yeah, the light is bending into my eye. And laugh about it.
It's like a cross-examination that took place. It's like a guy was on the stand and he said, this was the events. I promise to tell the truth. And then the guy, so the other lawyer gets there and asks questions and he says the exact opposite. That's what took place.
Agreed. Yeah, I understand. He is useful for that, and it saves you breaking down the whole argument again because he knows the argument. But
Exactly.
in lifetime to pick it up like that, that was nice.
Right. So therefore, our relationship with someone like Virus is symbiotic. But that means it works. But that door swings both ways. In other words, the anti-flat earthers have a symbiotic relationship with us. They need us.
Nathan, he was your little pet for a while there. Do I have to go back and listen to the old videos to show you that things may have changed, but he used to be a little pet. But I understand how you're doing it now.
Nothing's changed. What's wrong? Nothing's changed.
Nice,
just sung his praises. Nothing's changed. You're just starting to appreciate why. That's all. Nothing's changed. I wouldn't go out for a beer with Virus. Not in a million years. He's not my kind of guy. Now, nothing against him. That doesn't mean I dislike him either. It just means that he's useful in the debate. And when he's trying to make his points and people are rumpusing, I am going to cut you off over him and you're going to go, oh, favouritism. And well, no. He knows the arguments. He can put them across. He can get cornered. Right? As you're going, hey, got cornered. Well, how come? He wasn't just saying, oh, you're just idiots, was he? So he's not dumb. He knows the arguments. Therefore, he's capable of getting cornered.
He's your pet for a while.
Sometimes ignorance can mean you slip straight through the net, Neil, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah? If you really are just newbie here and you're just like, you guys are all idiots, don't you know you can see boats going over the curve? And you go, we don't have a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon. And they go, yeah, we do, boats are going over it. And you go, no, you don't understand. It's been debunked with the black swan. And they go, what's the black swan? Boats go over the horizon. You see what I mean? Ignorance makes you almost impervious to a certain extent. That's why the plethora of quote-unquote flat earth information that you come across is geared towards our opponent. It's got to be. So therefore, you keep the majority of people ignorant. They don't get to hear the argument. They get to hear the crap rebuttal from an anti-flat earther that doesn't in any way highlight the fact that the rebuttal is overcoming the original globe claim. That's not going to trigger somebody who's had the surface level intonation to actually go out and have a look and go, oh, I wonder what this is about. Well, that person needs to be immediately met with the rebuttal from the anti-flat earth side, because they're not going to dig into it. They're not going to go, well, hang on, does that actually comport with the original globe? No, they're not going to do that. And that's what you need. Keep everyone dumb. And that's the world we live in. I smile about it because I know there's nothing I can do about it. So what am I actually offering? Well, the truth to anybody who wants to take it, and a fight for anyone who doesn't but feels offended by the fact I'm offering it, which is all we really get, because they're interested in us more than I'm interested in them. I won't stereotype the rest of you guys, but people will often say, did you watch this, that and the other with Simon and Dan? I start ribbing the panel when they do it. Brian's getting it at the moment. It's like blah 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 Sean Hawkins, blah 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 Sean Hawkins, and you're like, okay, so you're a Sean Hawkins fan? No. No, I'm just pointing out that this, that and the other. Or blah, 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 cats and blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, so you're a Cats fan. No, it was on Quantum Erasers channel. There's always an excuse lined up. Anyway, my point is that, for the most part, the other side of the argument holds very little interest to me. They've never got anything new. Literally, it's just boring. Now, don't get me wrong, there might have been a time where I would actually go through these people's videos. But for the most part, I'm looking for the obscure. If I try and find an anti-flat earth video to find, I'm looking for something obscure. Something that might actually have an original rebuttal in it. Now, I never find it, but I rarely look, and whenever something's shoved under my nose, it's the same old crap. So it's boring. Why would I want to waste my time with anti-flat earth boring rhetoric, overcoming stuff that ultimately debunks the globe? Oh, God, this is tedious. I just haven't got time for it, literally.
Agreed.
But time will be foisted out on people or taken away from people by the algorithms that present the information if you're looking for this information, i.e. information about the nature of the world from this side of the fence, flat earth, that is. You won't find it. What you'll find is the response that reaffirms your original programming, and normally that's enough to get anybody who's got a cursory interest in the subject to scratch the surface and then bugger off. Happy, still on a globe, having not fallen down the hill. And if you have any empathy for the Cypher character in The Matrix, which you may or may not, you know, the people who are not removed from the Matrix in the first place, some could argue, which Cypher does, have got it better than he has. You're better off not knowing. You're better off just being emaciated or engrossed or whatever the word is into the system without a conscious awareness that it's a system. You just partake in it and happy old days and life goes on. You know, and that's what Cypher wanted. He saw that as better. Go on.
That's terrible. How a bunch of people being used as batteries?
Yeah, but they don't know what they don't know. So if you're unaware of that at any level, that's why they're anti-flat earthers the moment they come across this subject, Neil. The moment they stumble across this subject and start even looking at it with a cursory glance, or sorry, more than a cursory glance, I should say, then they end up rolling down the hill pretty quickly. So you've got to stop that happening. Yeah? Well, those people are the people that are still plugged in and completely blissfully unaware that they're plugged in. Now, when Cypher wants back in, he's like, I don't want to remember anything. It's like, well, that would have to be the case, because you couldn't be plugged back in if you did. But realistically here, there is no getting plugged back in. You know, we're all in the same boat, the anti-flat earthers and us. You know, there's a reason that anti-flat earth has flat earth in the name, because they're in this basically the same boat as us. They just hate it. You know, there's a fine line between heaven and hell, and a newfound appreciation for the beauty of the world that we live in, and the mystery that surrounds it in many aspects that we were lied to previously is a wondrous thing for me. Makes me very excited, makes me very happy. Now, that same exact boat is hell for the people who oppose us. It's literally their hell. Well, it's the same boat. You know, but for them, it's the fear of not knowing. It's like you're already in the boat. You know, the fact that you're contemplating that you might have been lied to on a massive scale means you already bloody know. At a subconscious level, you already realise it. Just don't want to. And that's painful.
Yeah, there's some guy in your chat yesterday named Jonathan, and he's proud to wear the badge that he's an anti-flat earther, because flat earth is poison. He'll be happy when it's gone from the world.
Yeah, he thinks that by kicking everybody out of the boat that he's in, suddenly the world will be better, because what, he's only in a boat that has the already conscious awareness, or unconscious awareness, that they've got a deception on their hands? Well, it couldn't be true, because then everything else that I basically think I understand, I wouldn't understand anymore. It'd all be lies. Yeah. That's correct. Well, your contemplation's not going to go away. Yeah, having less people pointing it out to you won't mean you can forget about it. You'll just drive yourself mad thinking about it without anybody to shout at and relieve your pain. It'll just be your own insular pain that you'll have to endure every time you contemplate it and then go, no, can't think about that. So the pain won't go away by kicking all the people out of the boat that you're in.
So I said to him, I said, the evidence of flat earth is astounding. And he goes, well, obviously you haven't heard any of my rebuttals. They're all ignored. I said, well, give me one. He said, what's the use? You just won't accept them anyway. I'm going to sleep. Good night. So when you push them to, all right, so I never heard of you before, so give me a rebuttal for something. You won't accept it. Good night.
That's fear. I fear you might overcome it, and I hold this very dear. So I'd rather not expose it to you, because then I can sleep tonight.
That's what I said. Nighty-night.
Yeah, sleep well, while you concern yourself with the contemplation of your oh-so-dearly held proofsy.
Somebody said good night, chill tight.
Well, you are shilling for the flat earth. At the end of the day, he's right.
Did you see
Nathan
QE's? Go on.
Al, who was that? Al something.
Oh, I was just gonna tell you. I sent you a commercial from PlayStation. Whenever you have a chance to see it, I sent it to your messenger here, Nathan Oakley.
In Discord?
Yeah, in Discord.
Yeah, I won't see that. I don't know how to use Discord.
So it's on the top left corner.
I intentionally don't know. I don't want to get into it. I've got too many messengers. This is useful for the live stream. That's all I use it for. Once I'm done, I disconnect and then I never ever load it again. No offense, but I don't want to know. I'm really sorry.
Problem. I mean, what can I send it to you? You can see it. Or actually, if you can look it up, it's called The Edge. It's called The Edge, and it's Play Has No Limit.
PlayStation ad.
If you look it up through YouTube.
Okay, so Play Has No Limit, PlayStation ad. Tell us why it's interesting.
So it pretty much is like they try to. It's practically a flat Earth commercial in a way. They're on a boat. There's a bunch of different planes, boats, things, and they're going towards quote unquote. They see like this big old weird clouded wall, and once they get to like the end, they push forward, and it looks like there's water falling off, but then when they go through it, they're actually going to more water, which is like they go into like a deep ocean somehow. So it's like going through a firmament type thing, then which there's waters on the other side, whatever.
Okay, cool.
It's just a funny commercial that PlayStation has just to throw up there. Truth in plain sight.
I put a slide up that QE put up yesterday. That Larry Scott, it's in Master B. I guess he's
Sextant angles.
Yeah, this is their version of how they see it. See any problems here?
Sea surface with a bend. The line that's using the sea surface doesn't match the sea surface.
Well, also, you see the right angle on the left side to the vertical. And
yeah, I see that. Yeah, so zenith, he's got a zenith to a horizontal. Well, where are you getting that from? Where's this horizontal coming from? From your zenith? All right, but the star's got to meet it, hasn't it? So the star would be meeting where this arrow is. Above where it says dip angle to horizon, there's an arrow pointing at the horizontal line. That would be where you were measuring to. This is a right mess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they don't know.
It's like, okay, he's got dip angle to horizon. It's like, oh, okay. That seems like a bit of a bait and switch way to label this. Okay, now do the same diagram with somebody that doesn't have to do a dip correction. In other words, somebody that's on the ground. Like we did the other day, we got a guy in a sailboat. So he's actually on the water level. So, okay, do the same thing with no dip. And the same curved sea surface falling away from your horizontal. Where are you going to get the horizontal from? Same place you got it from here, right? Your zenith. All right. So where's the star going to meet? At the end of the 90 degree that you acquired from your zenith? What, in middle of space, right? Miles up from the dip that it's supposed to be on a spherical surface. Yeah, this doesn't work.
Right. Go to the next slide. This is how it works.
How it's done.
And yeah, exactly. Well, this is how the sextant works, is what I'm saying. The sextant can't work on that previous image. That's why the argument ends right there with the sextant, what it's designed for, what it could work on. You don't have to go into anything else. I mean, it's nice to know those things, but it's over right there. The tool just can't do that. But the tool can do what this last picture I sent you is doing. So
the tool's measuring triangles, right? It's a triangulation tool. And here it is measuring triangulation with a nice square, flat bottom, nice straight line down from the star and your angle that you're measuring with your sextant. It all looks pucker. Then we go to this. This nonsense.
Yeah, but you know.
Is this how it's done? Yeah. Is this what they do?
Yeah, but let's lay the contrast. The slide at the bottom is from a website called Steering Mariners. The guy's an expert with the sextant. The slide at the top is an anti-flat earther.
I see. So this is an anti-flat earther's interpretation of how it's done. Yeah, it's not done this way.
See, this is why I keep stressing. I want them to do whatever they want to do because I'm just going to take them to the sources. The only sources I ever used in learning was their sources from capable mariners and legitimate navigation schools. So, of course, there's some other things, other sites you run into, people giving comments on those basic things. But when you go to, Bowditch, which is their Bible of navigation, hundreds of pages, and you go to schools that use that book as their base book, the bottom slide is what's being done. The top slide is an anti-flight earthers version. We'll just take them back to the sources of the people who know what the sextant is, what its capabilities are, and dip correction is really height above sea level. You don't see that on that first slide, but you do on the second one because he's already made the height adjustment. You can see the coming from the hull where it's meeting the ocean there. So you get your right angle.
To the flat plane that's being measured.
Just like Alberuni.
When he measured the height of the mountain. That's right, it's got to be flat. It's the only way to measure. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Hey.
Enthusiasm level at about 20%. Fair enough. Let's do a bit of housekeeping, see if that gets you in the mood. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Black Swan?
Black Swan? Indeed.
Yeah.
The horizon's not a physical geometric sphere edge blocking boats and buildings with its physicalness.
Terrestrial refraction.
Just me, or is Arwen a bit quiet?
Oh. No, must be me. I said terrestrial refraction, right?
Terrestrial refraction
Not
requires R.
geometric.
See Arwen's yesterday show.
Oh, right. If it's not geometric, then how did we get the R value? Well, then it must be just geometric after all, right?
Not unless you can measure it.
No. You're supposed to say, yeah, but if it is geometric, then it's the Black Swan. makes it impossible.
I see. In other words, if you're claiming you've got a straight line to it, the horizon, that is, then black swan. It's beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959.
Right. So it's basically the option for the Globers now. Okay, which one do you choose? Do you choose the black swan making the geometry impossible? Or do you choose not being able to establish an R value? Which one do you choose?
Both are true. The geometric impossibility is demonstrated by the black swan. Hence the rebuttal is the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. The geometric horizon is the horizon you wouldn't expect to see. Nobody's claiming the horizon is Earth curve. That's because the Earth curve calculator shows the horizon as being their geometric limitation, and the drop values and all the rest of it are calculated from that. It's based on R. So therefore, if they haven't got a straight line to it, as is the case and demonstrated in the black swan, it's non-geometric, refracted. Refracted! So therefore it's refracted, Arwin. Right, so it's definitely not going to give them R values because they can't suck off all the atmosphere to see a geometric capable of measuring horizon when they assume that they've got a sphere Earth beneath their feet. That simply isn't possible. How inconvenient if you need to acquire one.
Right, you only have to choke all life on Earth in order to see the supposed spherical geometry of it.
Yeah, we could show you Earth curve, but we'd have to kill you.
Yeah, we could show you, but we have to kill you. That's right. Yeah.
In the meantime, we'll pretend that the horizon that is definitely not Earth curve is Earth curve, and we've got these maths to show how much it's physically blocking stuff, even though it's not physical. So just accept that the horizon is physically blocking stuff, even though it's not physical and you could never see it. That's currently the argument and state of play for the globe Earth. It's got to be very painful for them.
Indeed.
Isn't there a crossover with Arwen's little dig at them? So if you're going to choke the whole Earth, then that means everything just vanished up into space.
Yeah, how are you going to do that?
Gas pressure.
Exactly, how are you going to do that? I mean, what you'd need in order to achieve no Atmo Day is some sort of, I don't know, vast empty space for all the gas to go into, and then we'd have no Atmo Day. If only the sky was a vacuum. Obviously, that would be a second law of thermodynamics violation. Also, what they claim is space. But if it was that, then you could achieve no Atmo Day because the gas would vacate into that area as it expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume.
That's a good point. The only way they could do it is making a giant container, like the size of half a continent, and then basically start utilizing pumps to pull all the air out of the container of the regular realm into it, compressing it to liquid, and then at some point, it's going to be very slow and very painful, by the way. And at some point, there will be a sufficient drop in air pressure to see the Earth as it really is without terrestrial refraction.
Terrestrial refraction only exists in the maths. It's an R-based refraction. So to say that we would not see terrestrial refraction, which is always an effect on a sphere that I assume from a model where we can't see the geometric horizon, that would be Earth curve, is preposterous on so many levels it's untrue. Further, as I said actually already, your terrestrial refraction requires an R value and only exists in Muppet Vision side profile. That's how it's derived mathematically. Or to put it another way, Arwen, it's got sod all to do with actual refraction effects that we see in real world.
That's true.
So if it's got sod all to do with the actual refractive effects that we may or may not observe to a negligible degree in our everyday lives, then you definitely don't have to suck off a presuppositional sphere-shaped air in order to achieve a presuppositional geometric horizon that can only be described and detailed in mathematics.
Well, and the ironic thing is that if, for some reason, let's not do it, it would actually be done, I bet it will actually reveal quite the opposite, and that is that, oh, look, no atmosphere, and now I can see even further. Look at that black swan, 100 or 200 miles away now, because, yeah, your line of sight is going to be less limited, because you're looking through less air, so you're going to be able to see even further over the flat plane.
But you don't even need to do that. All you got to do is go to what's already written in the explanation of why you don't use a sextant, say 15, 20 degrees above the horizon. But it's fine to use it above that because the refraction is normal refraction, and they've got it's a very minuscule amount. It's in the book already. So when you go to that level of 15 degrees or lower, say to the horizon, all the thickness of the air and all the particulates in the air, just stay away from that. But let's say you remove it somehow. Well, then guess what? The sextants will work on those stars now without all the math that you got to figure out. And they themselves say that when it's directly overhead at a zenith, there is no refraction because it's coming down vertically like a plumb line.
As are all of the stars used
something?
for measurable triangulation, because they've all effectively got a plumb line dangled from the ceiling. So effectively, when you're taking any angle measurement, once you've done dip correction, you're lining up a straight line along the ground to the ground position of the star. So it's flat. It's the end of the argument.
It is. Go on, Arvin. What are you going to say?
No, it's just a curiosity, because I still remember from the earlier videos, research days, that there seems to be an indication that if you go up really, really high with a high altitude balloon, that you don't see stars, right? So I drew an early conclusion from that, which I can't really confirm just yet, but I drew the conclusion that, okay, so does it require air to actually see the celestial bodies? Right? Because if there's less air, do you see less stars, or would you see more? Like, where are they, these light phenomenon?
I don't know. It'd be nice to know what they are
If you drew
first.
a vacuum, would you still even see it?
We'd need to know what they are first, wouldn't we?
What? No, not going there. Not curve, not R. Just vacuums and celestial lights.
Yeah. How do you know whether or not... If you don't know what it is, how do you know how it's going to react in different circumstances?
Well, you'd have to test that.
Right.
But
Good luck with that.
is that worth the test? No.
Quick shout out to Tony Whitcomb, who says, the baller's problem is trust. Trust what they are told by all accounts. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, you need R for that, and our census would pick it up, and our census pick, the only thing we know is the sky, and the luminaries are turning, but the ground under our feet is not. It's obvious.
Right. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
More fantasy on the baller side of a presupposed. See, they presuppose everything. They live in the presupposed world of theirs. So everything is presupposed, and then they try to take what they get in reality and use math to explain it. But reality, when the math doesn't match reality, like the black swan, what do? Well, now you obfuscate and say it's refraction. So with the center of the Earth, well, how do they know? The deepest they've gone is 8 miles, and then they're going to assume a center?
Well, they got P waves and S waves, though. So they can definitely model the data that they get from that into a sort of a spherical thing, if they wanted to, if they apply certain geometry.
Mathematical model that came out bad and wrong when they did it in the 8 Mile borehole. When they hit things
yeah, but one day they'll get it right, maybe.
Okay. Well, get what right?
Well, they'd have to field test it constantly. Like, you need to actually test, like, the P waves and S wave system, larger and larger scales, to just know, like, what are the effects that we're going to pick up when we do it over these distances, and then do that like thousands and thousands of times with different areas before you can get even close to getting accurate with predictions, if ever. Right? It might turn out that it's just impossible to do, that it doesn't actually work out.
No, actually, it's very possible to do, and they've already done it. They don't need to go to the extent that you're talking about, because if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, every horizon distance can be no further than 1.22 miles. So guess what? You can figure out if there's a center with a core. Just show us the curve at 1.22 miles at a 1 foot observer height. Oops. Save a lot
That's
of
a
money,
red
folks.
herring. Damn it. Has nothing to do with P waves and S waves. No, but the scanning, the Earth scanning technology, P waves and S waves, to figure out what is there, doesn't have to do anything with the argument that there is a core in a sphere. But they could figure out what is down there. But in order to get there, you need to test it a lot. And it might be that it's just impossible to test over vast distances, no matter what they do.
Talk about a red herring. Nathan, please repeat the question.
What was the question again? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core
Yeah.
at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Yeah, see, Arwen, that was the question. Not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that part, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, for you. Playing Baldwin.
Me?
Yeah, you.
That was not
question was-
Baldwin.
Oh, that was really you. Okay, that's a surprise.
Yeah, P waves and S waves are a thing. It's just when they model it into the sphere system with circumdicular geometry, that's when it starts to become nonsense. But
Your
scanning
time-
through rock is interesting.
Yeah, but if you have a curve on the surface, then there might be something at the center of a sphere. But if you don't have a curve, then why you presuppose there's a sphere with a center?
I wasn't addressing that part of the question.
Well, of course. That's why you were playing Baldwin.
No, I'm like that too, 10th.
I know.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
trying to
okay.
get you to stay on one side.
Okay. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
P waves and S waves.
I don't know
What?
where. No.
P waves and S waves? What?
Well, if he can do it, I can do it.
No, it doesn't work like that.
No, the
Adrian?
atmosphere is not that thick, 10th.
Atmo what?
Oh shit, I said it.
Atmo what now?
The gas we're looking through towards what could be presumed to be a light object is not thick enough for P waves and S waves to work that way. We could just scan it. We could just use radio signals, lasers, whatever. Because air is pretty transparent. You don't have the same problem as with solid rock.
Why can't we just say air? Instead of atmos plane, air and plane.
It's conditioning, Neil.
It is
You know,
conditioning.
when all the news says it, when all the school book says it, yeah, you're going to say it. It's very tough to get away from.
It is. I found it the other day. I'll segue across to this question next after shouting out Jules Lutz, who says, "Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement." Red Hot Chili Peppers. Indeedy do. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. I was teaching my kid about motion in this, I don't know, Key Stage 1 book or whatever it was, and it was describing the centre of gravity. Now, without, much consideration, I just rattled it off and gave the description as it was intended. Obviously after the fact I'm describing it now and gave it some consideration, but in the actual tutorial, I wasn't interested in the fact that that particular word had connotations that are indeed brainwashing and conditioning my eldest daughter in that respect. And we've all been subject to it. We all say atmosphere without really thinking about it. I did it the other day when we were talking about that NASA building. I'm like, it's claimed to have its own atmosphere. I'm like, as soon as I said it, I'm like, hang on. So they're saying inside this big massive NASA building, there's a sphere-shaped air. It's got its own sphere-shaped air. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I didn't mean always. I meant when we deliberately say atmos or atmos plane. Why don't we just say air and plane?
Well, you just said it right there, Nathan. Every time you want to reference them, just say sphere-shaped there rather than atmosphere. And every time you want to reference reality, you can just say air.
Yeah, I'm trying. It just comes out. Like certain things with gravity, that's my point. You just, linguistically, magic is just part of the language, right? Spells and spelling. Well, How do we become under the spell of heliocentrism? Well, with words. So when you're being trained to understand how the centre of gravity is affecting a certain motion, when you think about it in those terms, and then when gravity is detailed to you later on in your educational process, you link the things together. So, okay, so there's always this force, there's always this gravity, and there's 1g in effect always. Okay, I get it. And it's the reason I don't float off into the air when you're later told what it is with a nonsensical explanation about a force that's in effect, that's holding you to the ground. You know, if you go on to higher education, they'll explain how it's actually the conceptual medium of pseudo-force space bending. Yeah, but by that time, you've already got it linguistically programmed into you, and everyday vernacular that you will use to not necessarily describe something that has a, I don't know, astrotheological meaning or whatever you want to attribute to this brainwashing as a religion. You know, you just use the word and ascribe the meaning that is colloquially ascribed to it.
Yeah, that's why when you watch a golf tournament, the announcer says, "Oh, and gravity took over."
Yeah, gravity took over and got it to roll into the hole. And you're like, yeah, you mean it rolled down because it was heavy and it was at the top of a hill. And then you think in this arena, you have to even get down to what does heavy mean? Well, heavy means a downward vector, weight, right? So you've got to get down to the nitty-gritty, but even if you use that weight word in your common vernacular, you don't appreciate that you're invoking gravity just by using that word. But it's part of your brainwashing, it's part of the language, it's part of the education.
And it's very hard to step away from its simplicity as well. That's also part of the problem, because what is weight, right? It's relative density disequilibrium in a standard air medium, and then assigned to a numerical value versus the volume of the object, whatever you're weighing. But yeah, to just say all that in one word is so much easier, right? Despite the mathematical complications, despite the bad theory tied into it, it's just so much easier to just say weight than to completely describe what it actually is. It's very tough.
Yeah, exactly. It's linguistically programmed into us. Now, while you might be able to step away from that paradigm and a fundamental level understand that you're not standing on a sphere, that it is just a philosophy, well, it doesn't change the fact that your language, English in this example, if there are people who have native language that's not English, then, you know, the same thing applies presumably in your language. I'm no language expert. But linguistically, we'll have these concepts reified into existence just by speaking them into existence with everyday words that we use. So yeah, you can step away and say, no, I understand that to conceptualize the world as a sphere, to appreciate the movement of the lights in the sky, is quite elegant as a model, but it isn't the world. That's a reification fallacy. Doesn't change the fact that the following sentence might be about the atmosphere, the sphere-shaped air that I'm breathing. Just out of habit, basically. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What is it?
Down 9.8 meters per second.
Is that the natural phenomena occurring?
That isn't a natural phenomena that I see occurring. As I sit here, nothing's doing that. Literally nothing is doing that.
Okay, so it's just a calculatory derived concept then.
Yeah, you summarised it beautifully earlier with relative density disequilibrium in air.
So that's weight, right? Gravity is all these elements extracted from properties of things.
No, old-fashioned gravity is weight.
Is it literally that, or is like...
Yeah.
Is it
yeah, it is.
The gravity times the mass makes the weight?
Yes. What's the... Let me try a different way. I'll try it from a different angle, because it's obviously you're thinking this is too simple. No, it isn't. So they say that gas is like bouncy balls, right? Well, what's it doing that's like bouncy balls? Well, it's going down, go boom, boom, Arwin. Why is it doing that? Go down, go boom, boom. That would be a downward vector, weight. Why has the gas got weight? Well, because gravity.
But that's technically incorrect, though.
No, I know it's incorrect.
No, hold on. It's even incorrect within the presuppositions because technically, effectively, gas doesn't have mass. It doesn't have that trait in its gaseous state.
Yeah, I know. But that doesn't change that in their paradigm, literally gas go down, go boom boom, doesn't it, Arwin? The weight of the gas above pressing on the gas below. Like we've got homogeneous layers of gases. For heavier gases above, which makes no sense in their own description, to be pressing down on the gases below. You're like, number one, gases don't do that. They expand in all directions. They're not clumped together to force stuff down with a concept that works in air. It is air. So it's just moving in all directions, free, until it hits something, either another gas particle or the walls of its container. That's it. And so it just flies around in all directions. Not down, go boom, boom.
Absolutely. But I like to address the argument, though, as to where did it came from? Because I don't remember Newton ever, like, even describing gas doing that. I think that it's an anti-flat Earth invention discovered much later when people started to ask the question, but how does that work with gas? How does it work with gas? And I think at first they just didn't address it at all. And then this nonsense story about gas go down, go boom, boom was kind of made up.
Yeah.
I don't think Newton ever even considered anything like that.
Absolutely.
Ever.
The amount of bloody hours I spent talking to Sleeping Warrior going, look, man, while you're telling me that I need to overcome gas go down, go boom, boom, that isn't how gravity works, and that is not something that is overcoming the second law of thermodynamics. So this is just anti-flat Earth rhetoric. Now, I didn't have that vernacular at the time, right? But I was explaining to Anthony, Sleeping Warrior, you don't need to overcome this. Every single reference that you will find about gas behaviour will not back this argument that they are making. Because that's not how gas behaves. That's why all of my citations come from universities about the second law of thermodynamics. About half a dozen already. Well, why? Well, because they agree with us. We know how gas behaves. It doesn't go down, go boom, boom. It's an anti-flat Earth rhetoric, absolutely. But Anthony's response to me was, yeah, but they still argue it. I'm like, so? Stands in violation of natural law. But he's like, well, yeah, but you tell that to the person I'm arguing with right now. I'm like, I would have said, past Nathan speaking to future Nathan or present Nathan, was, yeah, just call them an anti-flat earther. Because they're not arguing for a globe rhetoric and they won't get citations for gas go down, go boom, boom. Who are they going to go to? Thunderfoot. Look at my bouncy balls poured into this fish tank. That's how gas behaves right there. Is it, you complete clown? Oh, right. Can you show me a practical demonstration that doesn't involve a solid bonded bouncy ball and maybe an unbonded gas particle doing that? Oh, what? It just expands to fill the space every time? Yeah, we know. It's a natural law.
Right.
Yeah, we have natural law on our side, right?
Indeed. I wonder, though, where did this story about gas being bouncy balls going down in the really ill-conceived heliocentric conception of how the atmosphere is sticking to the ball, when did that story start to arrive? Because again, Newton, who lived 200 years ago, he had Newtonian mechanics. He kind of excluded gas except for friction within his modeling, and he was interested in orbits. He did write about that, and then he disclaimed it to be a hypothesis because it wasn't scientific. But he did not come up with the idea of gas going down through gravity. He just didn't address that part at all. So I wonder, when did that notion first start rolling into popular talk?
Okay, fine. We'll throw it out to the audience and chat and Discord, etc., etc. So if somebody can tell us where the origin of this complete and utter nonsense that gas go down, go boom, boom started, we'd be all ears to know who we can ascribe this utter horse crap to.
Indeed. Because I think the idea of this part of the story might not even be 50 years old. Might not even be 10 years old. We don't know.
But it might have started with us. We might have only started getting gas go down, go boom, boom when the most recent wave of flat earthers came on the scene. For all we know, the same exact argument was made in the 70s with the last wave of flat earthers. Who knows?
Exactly. History. History is important.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Historically, no. None.
They they can only go as far as observation. After that, the scientific method is impossible for them.
I know we've covered it quite a lot already, but any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
You require at least 2 containers to demonstrate anything gas-related.
I'll do this every show. It's going to be a thing, isn't it? I'll say it again,
Yeah.
Armin. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container, without a singular A being one, without one, let alone 2.
Well, you'd have to leave this realm and enter some kind of weird, unnatural realm.
No,
in order
this
to
realm.
demonstrate that.
This realm.
What bloody
In
realm?
This realm.
Next bus to the next
It's
realm is when?
contained. The problem is this realm is contained. It has to be because we do have gas pressure, and it's even relatively stable.
Sorry, what's a
So
realm?
it has
What's
to
a
be
realm?
there.
Sorry, is this King Arthur's times? What's going on? Why are we calling where we live a realm?
What?
What's a
He's
realm?
overwhelmed right
What's
now.
a realm?
He's overwhelmed right now.
He's not
A
overwhelmed.
realm is a container with land in it.
Look, I'm
In
rumpusing his answer. What's a realm, Arwin?
You got me flat-footed. I don't know how to answer this.
You're the one using the word. You're calling,
I
presumably,
don't
where
know,
we
it's
are.
just a realm, a place, a world.
Jules Ludd says my gas always goes up. Okay, well, that's good for you. Thank you for the super chat. I've heard this word
guess
used by
that's
many different, mostly flat earthers. They like to call where we live a realm. I'm like, what the hell's a realm? It's like the realm of King Arthur? Because that would be just a certain amount of land that he has rule over. That's his realm, right? So I understand it in that context. What do you mean, though? What does it actually mean? I've never looked up the word realm. I've never been that interested. But you're using the word. Hopefully you're Google searching it. I'm buying you enough time to. No, nobody knows. Why do we get described as being in a realm, precisely? Nobody knows. It's just a cool word, I guess.
No, it's a region. It's basically describing a region. It could be anything. So, like England or the Great Britain could be a realm considerably, or you could call Asia and Europe a realm. It all depends on the context, really. So it is unspecified in a way.
You just use it
It's
to
just a
sound cool,
place.
don't you?
I like the word. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're just using it to sound cool.
It's a widespread used word in D&D cosmology too. Call it realms.
I see.
I don't know. I'm over-regioned. Doesn't go well.
Did we cover all housekeeping? It'd be the first time this week if we did.
I think so. I think we're... I can't think of one you missed. But they haven't been answered in ages, so...
Right, it seems like ages. It's probably just this week because there's been a lot to talk about. I've got a special edition show coming out tomorrow. So yesterday evening, myself, Arwin, Adam, Brian, Mitchell dropped along and so did Eli, and I can't remember if anybody else mustered along while we were having this discussion about a guy called Tommy. I don't even know the person they were talking about. Guys, yeah, I'm definitely not abreast of the anti-flat earth scene. So some dude that made a model. They pulled apart the model, Adam and Brian mostly. And yeah, it was a good couple of hours of them pulling it apart, showing the model in Google SketchUp and showing how it was a bastardization of reality, as all models are. But anyway, that's coming out tomorrow.
What was the model of again?
Say again? What was the what?
What was the modeling for, and what was the subject in the model?
Okay, so model number 1 in the 3 was an flat Earth model which had the Blackpool Swan image rammed down into the ground by 2 kilometres. Oh joy. The second model was a globe Earth with radius 3959, and then there was another one with radius 4,900 or something like that. It was 7,500 in K. So they've got 3 different models. One's a normal globe Earth, normal radius. One is an extended radius, quote unquote, effective radius turned into a physical radius, i.e. the ground has now been made bigger by this use of the effective radius. You mean what you assume is bending the light around the physicality of the ground on the floor when you assume it's a sphere? But you're going to turn that into a physically bigger sphere Earth because you've got this new term effective radius. Yeah, so that was the third model. So those 3 were analysed. Obviously, the effective model had the photograph nicely lined up with the ground to make it work the best. The globe Earth model had it sort of, I don't know, maybe a kilometre rammed into the ground. And the flat Earth model had the photo rammed 2 kilometres into the ground. It was all a bit of a joke, really. But if you like that sort of thing, it'll get ripped apart tomorrow. That's Saturday. I know don't normally mention the day, but in this case I've got to.
I'll be back in a minute with something.
I don't know what title, the working title that's gone out to the members, so if you're a member you can watch this now, but it's just called Flat Earth. I think it's just called Flat Earth Debate Special Edition at the moment. It's got no thumbnail or title as yet, but I'm sure I'll come up with one before tomorrow when it actually goes out to the public. So be here or be sphere, it's this time tomorrow, so typically on a Saturday I don't do a live show. I'll normally play one of the Uncut and After shows that hasn't gone out yet, a members only one, but tomorrow will actually be a brand new show that's not a Flat Earth debate. It's a special edition, like I say. Which was fun to make. Shout out to Brian and Adam for all their hard work in that regard. Adam explained that he had built an extension, and rather than employing a designer, he just became familiar with a program called Google SketchUp, just a 3D CAD program. And as a result, he was, maybe fairly long time ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but nevertheless, he was reasonably familiar with it. So this dude that had this model on his video, and he's obviously just taking various screen captures and showing how the model works. But in video format, obviously, you can't work your way around it and look at the parameters and get in deep with the model. But Adam, being familiar with that particular piece of software, just asked for it, and good to, fair play to the guy, just handed it over. So Adam just got into it and was like, right, let's have a good look. And, he was at least seemed reasonably adept at using the program. So from that perspective, Adam was able to make his examples and zoom in and out and show what he was talking about, rather than just detailing how the mathematics utilised to create the model are unrealistic or bastardised or wrong in many instances. Fudged would be probably the best word I would use. Shave a little bit off here that it doesn't match with, shave a little bit off there that it doesn't match with, etc., etc. And I can tell you're all really excited about this special edition that we're going to be doing, pulling apart a model that some anti-flat Earth made. The cheers ringing in my ears.
He called yesterday in a war room. Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you were reading a super chat. He called a few people in the war room yesterday and went over it. Good stuff.
So you got a vague idea what I'm talking about then. It was actually on yesterday's show towards the end. Brian brought it up in his annoyance and he's like, look at this. And then it gave us a sneak preview of what this will be covering, because we've got to see screen captures from the guy's YouTube video. And obviously they contained the model images, so you can get a vague idea from yesterday's show what will be talked about on tomorrow's special edition. If you want, if that tickles your fancy. I've got to be honest, my only interjection in that particular discussion was to say, where did they get the R value from? And once all of the discussion of the model was over, it moved across to the claim from the dude that has presented this, that there's plenty of ways to measure R, we just ignore them. And then the citation was just literally wiki with these phallic models and not a really concise description of how ours actually acquired, although it was read through by Brian. Once we dug a few links into the citations in Wikipedia, as is always the case, they're measuring the presupposition of a meridian curve, I believe it was called. In other words, they just beg the question that they're doing the measurements on a spherical surface. Don't mention that on the first page that you go to if you reference Wiki. Doesn't even describe how it's done. But like I say, dig in a couple of links and find out. Yeah, of course, they beg the question and assume they're measuring a spherical surface.
Well, they have to.
Indeed. Shout out to that flat fellow for the super chat.
Nathan, go to Master B for that document I was looking for. Hopefully this is on the same subject. I think it was.
Okay, it's up.
This is from that one. I almost said I got a trash truck behind me making a bunch of noise. Association of American Geographers. Before I read that, I want to read the prologue, the beginning of the article. Fictitious geography. We know what geography is, and we know what fictitious is. So this is the title, Fictitious Geography. In science, and also in mapping, we are concerned with non-fiction generally in our work. But all too often, we lose sight of the fact that much of our non-fiction is built upon abstraction and arbitrarily agreed upon convention, like p-values, for instance. With that in mind, today I will share some words from the glossary to help us remember that right there in our nonfiction research is our own fiction that we like to call abstraction and assumption. That's how this article starts. And what you have there is, I believe, the topic you guys were talking about yesterday, radius of Earth effective. Would that be correct?
Yes.
A fictitious value of Earth's radius, a fictitious value of Earth's radius. That's how that starts, which when used in the formula for the distance from a point to a geometric horizon. Now, right there, geometric horizon, they need one. They're the ones with the sphere that needs that, and the black swan took care of that. If the Earth was spherical and without air, tangents drawn to the surface from a point above it would define a circle, geometric horizon, outside of which no points on the sphere would be visible from the chosen point, but all points inside it would be. There's your local horizon that they're talking about. If an atmosphere were added, points outside the circle would become visible because the line of sight would curve and extend to points beyond the geometric horizon as far as a circle, the apparent horizon, of greater radius. Distance to the apparent horizon can be calculated using same formula as used for distance to the geometric horizon. If, in that formula, a larger value, the effective radius is used for the radius of the Earth. The effective radius for points of observation within the troposphere is greater than the true radius and increases with wavelength of the radiation of which the observations are made. It is particularly useful in determining, without long calculation, whether 2 points a considerable distance apart will be intervisible or able to receive each other's signals. For radio waves, an ultra-high frequency, the effective radius is about 4/3 the true radius. Now, they're telling you this is fictitious, and yet they're talking about it as if they've got something. And there's so many contradictions in this.
Yeah, it also debunks any notion claimed by anti-flat earthers or otherwise that they have any capability of acquiring a straight line to use the sextant. Do you want to read the part out again when they explain about the light without the atmosphere? Once you've added atmosphere, bent lines always. Well, according to your fundy belief, we've always got sphere-shaped air. So according to you, we're always going to have light bending. So sextants rendered useless and impotent on a sphere that you believe you're standing on. And yet it still works, with an assumption that you've got a straight line to the GP of the star and a 90-degree angle capable to it. Well, if that's the case, Earth's flat, and if the sphere-Earth assumption with atmosphere always present is true, you can't use that tool.
I'm glad you caught that, but let me read the last sentence. We should embrace the fiction in our science because understanding what we can measure and what we can not is a very important step to understanding the world around us scientifically. What a bunch of... So if I'm supposed to understand things scientifically, right? I mean, think about how we've been drilled with that. It's the science, baby, the science. So it's just basically saying, this is it. This is how things work. And then here it says we should embrace the fiction in our science. Well, how can you embrace any fiction in science?
Oh, it's outrageous. They've only got to drop it in, even though they're suggesting that you should embrace fiction in science, because that word's in there. And most people, and especially anti-flat earthers, will nod along. You know, they'll take this and they'll go, look, always refracted. That's our response to the black swan. Oh, yeah. So when you're drawing a straight line to the horizon, what do you do? Well, you just assume it's straight. So no Atmo day then.
Just in case people don't trust me on this, Nathan, I'm going to put the title page on so they can see who talked about this. These aren't people who come as anti-flat earthers. The title, I'll be back for, look for Master B in a second.
Any chance I could reference something really quick, Nathan?
Yeah, of course.
I posted something in Discord chat. It's specifically the Google definition for sphere. And while I completely agree that the commonly used definition for atmosphere completely comports with what you're saying, that they mean sphere-shaped air. But I think a lot of flat earthers, or myself, who recognize the aspect, use the term atmosphere with that second definition, talking about the area where the air is, the region where the air is, as opposed to, say, the celestial sphere, the area where the stars are, and the terrestrial sphere, the area where the Earth is, where we are. I mean, it's sort of a common taxonomy that I think existed for a long time and got co-opted. But, sometimes I think we can mean air area without getting hung up on the globe rhetoric.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're saying in common vernacular, atmosphere just means the area of air. Fine. Other than the sphere bit in it, which means sphere.
Well, it does, but it also, I find that in the link I posted, or the picture I posted, I found it interesting that there are at least 6 or 7 synonyms for the second definition, which is referring to just a sort of a region or area.
I see. So in the same respect, colloquially, in my social sphere, I have blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. Or like Arwen was saying earlier about a realm. Well, it's sort of a fancy way of saying an unknowable area that is defined, but not exactly a shape.
Yeah, and fair enough. And in general language terms, I'm not going to, kick myself when I say atmosphere in general day-to-day speech. It is part of the language, and I'm certain that when I'm using it, I know I don't mean air wrapped around a sphere flying through a vacuum, but that is commonly what it also means and is utilised in that way. I mean, what was just read out by 10th Man is the antithesis, is the definition of that.
Very, very true, but it's sometimes convenient for us, or those of us who do recognize the aspect of the Earth being flat, that we can talk about it with without having to stumble over it every time.
I get you. And while I appreciate your sentiment, you will be hung if you use that word again. Do you understand?
Oh, totally.
That's acceptable, but what I can't accept is when they're talking about somebody or something or a company and they say they're the best on the planet. That drives me insane.
Those slides are up, Nathan.
Can't believe Neil is part of our sphere of influence, but there we go. That's just life. Yeah, I've got it up.
So where's this coming from? What I just read.
AAG.
Oh, pretty interesting. Educated people, right? Talking about the fiction in their science. You're not supposed to have fiction in science. That's major contradiction. But they need it in order to move the globe model. So they go through a whole list of fictitious titles of topics they talk about all the time. And of course, the one I read was the radius. And then the next slide will show you the last piece I read at the bottom of the page.
Oh, I was going to ask, but didn't want to interrupt your flow.
Yeah. But go ahead. You can move it there, I guess. I already read it, so it's right at the bottom there.
No, it's useful
But
to have it on
breaks.
screen. Some people may want to take screenshots or something and reference it, but there it is if you wanted to reference what was read out at the end of 10th Man's little bit a moment ago.
Yeah, so the question is this. Let me pose it the way I would. If I'm sitting in the room and people from this organization were talking to people, say, on the panel here, and they're going back and forth, back and forth. I say, hang on, can I ask a question? And they'd say, sure. So I've been listening to your conversation. You represent the American Association of Geographers. And these guys over here are from the Flat Earth debate panel. And I've been listening to you for a while. You put out a paper, and this is what you say in your paper. And you say you're embracing fiction. How can you be objective and forthright in your discipline when you jump out of nonfiction to fiction as easily as you can do? Is that because you got a presupposition?
Of course.
So reality doesn't match. That's why they got this paper. Reality doesn't match their findings, yet they want to be held up in academia. And the only way they could be held up is to say, hey, in order to keep our model and reality that fights our model, we're going to have to go to fiction. So let's just go to fiction and keep our model.
Sleeping Warrior from the chat says it's not hung, it's hanged. Well, thank you, Sleeping Warrior. Just looked it up in the Flat Earth rulebook, and actually the penalty for using the word atmosphere is the guillotine, so we're both wrong.
Sleeping Warrior hung and hanged at this moment.
He's just trying to say I'm common. I know his game.
Can't even play rope-a-dope with that guy anymore.
Really freaking great.
Go on, Neil.
No, I'm just saying, really great. I just passed the mirror and I have a freaking black eye.
Eyewear.
I'd say you're lucky to have an eye at all, black or otherwise, but there we go.
So Sleeping Warrior's response would mean that the anti-flat earthers and the flat earthers can have a title, Never the Twain Shall Meet.
Boom, boom. Multi-level dad jokes.
I missed that. What did he say?
Nothing, Neil. Twain. Clearly not.
I love Mark Twain.
Well, this is a slow wind down to a live show.
Well, do we have anyone in Discord?
Can we keep stringing this along?
Hey, listen, it's because it's so
Love it.
dominating. It's like, let's see, like the dominating Pittsburgh Steelers teams of the 1970s in American football. I mean, what they don't come because they can't. They have nothing. Who wants to come here and get beat up?
Where's the pun? Go on, you got to give us a pun. It's money for old rope.
I'm sure this show's comments will show up in somebody's threads.
Come on, can we not round out a Friday show on a string of puns for 8 minutes?
Well, my eye is kind of bad. I do need stitches.
I think not.
Oh, God.
No, I'm afraid
I
not.
need stitches. I'm afraid not.
That was the best one, the not.
Come on, give us some good news for the end of the show. No? No good news?
No, we don't have the audience hanging on your last word today.
You're going to get us wound up.
Nice.
I just thought if I gave you guys enough rope.
Hang on, I better say this right. I go
Hang yourself.
hung or hang myself. Which one is it?
Hanged.
I know. I'm just trying to get it on a roll.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Hanged.
That don't make sense.
Doesn't sound right. Blurfs on protest, says Sleeping Warrior. Blurfs have nothing to counter us with. The FE equivalence principle at Nathan Oakley, says Sleeping Warrior. Okay, good to know. On the quiet days, I'm happy so long as we get through housekeeping.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good discourse. I mean, it's a few more minutes for a baller to show some whatever they want to show.
I don't know. I kind of miss the days when Wiggles would come in and try to go through the scientific method and get embarrassed and abused. I mean, berated.
Oh, is Wiggles your little pet, is he?
Well, it's fictitious. It's fictitious now, Neil. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I remember Bob boasting. I don't know how Wiggles even comes in there anymore until the hammer of Nathan fell across his dome.
Right, in a few minutes when this live show rounds out, Martin Leitke's got an FEB, or Flat Earth British Conference, going on. So that's live right now. It's been going live for a while. So check it out after this live stream finishes. Go and check out Martin Leitke's channel. You'll catch his live stream. Any other news?
I'm waiting for more rope puns.
More rope puns?
Yeah,
Oh God, no, please no.
I want to be taught.
Terrible. Terrible.
You want to be taunt.
Taught. Yeah, taught.
Oh, taunt. We taunt the ballers, anti-flat earthers.
How long will it take him? We'll let Neil get the joke before we round out.
You can have an extended show.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I know it's something to do with a string.
I was going to say I think not, but we've already had that one.
Well, it's hard to tell who's who because a lot of the ballers and anti-flat earthers, they're intertwined with us.
Very nice.
Oh, bless. Bless him.
He found a way to walk the tightrope quite well there.
Am I leaving the right amount of silence afterwards? I don't have a tumbleweed sound effect.
Yeah, this is so telling about the ballers, isn't it?
I think about the standard of puns, I can tell you that much.
Well, I'd rather do puns than listen to that nonsense. In fact, in navigation, you need nautical miles.
Nautical.
But I thought you can't do long distance observations over water, you know? The Earth curve calculator now says that in red, you're not allowed to use bodies of water to observe over.
Yeah, not accurate for measurements near Earth curve, right?
So when using nautical miles, how does that influence your observation over water if you're not allowed to do the observation over water?
Look, you're not allowed to do boats over the horizon if you're using the curve calculator. You just say that nonsense and then hope that nobody reads that disclaimer if you ever try and justify your belief that boats are going over a physical sphere. We'll obviously discuss this in the pre-show, in the after show, but if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
I got so angry, I kicked the freaking cutter and it went bouncing and almost through the window. So, anyway, how do you like the view in New York?
Yeah.
It stinks in here. A rat ran over my feet as I'm walking in this morning.
Place to visit, but I'd rather live in the country.
Me too.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
Speaking of puns, on the last subject of the rope, anything from Discord?
Ah, very good. No, it's a very shy bunch today from Discord.
Huh, interesting.
How would Nathan know? He doesn't know how to use Discord deliberately.
He can get on it and off it. He doesn't know all the other details.
Press my button that loads Discord. I click on live stream, and that is literally it. Other than that, I hustle people off mute when they come into the live stream so they can't cause chaos. They're automatically muted when they join live stream. Once live stream is finished, somebody else, not me, moves everybody to after show. Presumably one of the very efficient, hard-working moderators of the Flat Earth Science versus Science Discord server. But I essentially do nothing. I press one button to load the program, one button to join it, and if you exclude leveling people up and unmuting them, I don't do anything in the software. Then once the show finishes, I leave and close that program down. That's my sum total of my involvement with Discord.
Got it, Neil? Stop asking those questions.
You should come join 24/7 on Discord, Nathan.
I think I have been in there. I think when the show was running once, somebody from the chat. So I go on, and I just pressed there's a link underneath their videos, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I
It's
have
just
them in there.
there's quite a good stream of ballers and anti-flat earthers, or say normies and anti-flat earthers, that come in there periodically throughout a day, and like people just take turns at trying to, I don't know, speak to someone who doesn't know this information, and it's like you've created this ring where people are too petrified to even step in. Everyone stays on mute until the show ends, and then they come out swinging with all their arguments. I think it would be quite interesting.
Are you
familiar with?
Hold on, 10th. Hold on. Just finish your thought, Flat Earth Solar. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it would be really cool for you to sort of catch them unawares in a slightly different platform. I know they always ask you to come to other platforms, but 24/7 Flat Earth Discord channel is, I'd say, very neutral.
Are you familiar with seeding in sports? The first place teams already have a position. It's the other teams that go into a playoff between each other to see who's going to play the first place team in the next round. So here we are, first place team with good arguments, housekeeping questions. And if all they want to do is stay on other channels and not come here, to me, that's a tell. They just, they don't care about first place. They don't want to battle for first place.
Long may it continue, because I have had so many more messages, emails, people contacting me about the quality of the information and their understanding level as a result of us having calm, concise discussions. It does require the occasional person on our own side to play devil's advocate, but people find the information much more digestible, so I'm more than content to have our own side put the arguments forward. No problem at all.
Like today, when I referenced the American Association of Geographers.
Right. Now, occasionally those same people who compliment me will say, yes, it is very entertaining when a baller comes on. And I think someone even on the show said, and it's also useful educationally because it's drumming the information over and over and over again. So, yeah, it's still useful to have the odd baller come on, and we do. But when there isn't, we're still talking about the subject matter. Things like the housekeeping questions keep us on track, so we don't get me wrong, in this week we've steered off onto cars and various other things, but the sum total of those discussions probably half an hour versus the 10 to 15 hours total recorded, all of which is absolutely 100% on point.
Nice double pun there. Good double pun there. You didn't even know you did it. Steered toward cars.
No, that was intentional.
Well, I'm sorry. I lost it in transmission then.
Lost in transmission.
Hold on, Neil's breaking up. Go ahead, Neil. We agree you should sue them.
I was just going to say, I used to break Nathan's chops about coming on 24/7. And the one time, no good. Nathan needs his own space, no interruptions. I was cringing because I like both of them.
To be honest,
yeah, I didn't mean it like to pull you away from your already successful place. This to me is like a flat Earth academy, and like you say, we're so far ahead that sometimes having a baller in here only retards the conversation from where it could have actually been reaching.
Exactly.
But yet, your intellect and your ability to articulately slice someone in half, I think, needs to be shared more with the world.
Sure, but by the same token, what this server offers me personally, is merely the gateway, the opportunity to join my show if you choose to. Yeah? Now, you're like, wow, wouldn't it be better if you did a surprise attack on people that weren't suspecting that you were going to come in and chop their head off? Well, no. All I want to be able to say is, yeah, you disagree. Feel free to join. No, you must meet me on my... I don't care. Couldn't care less what you want. I have got an open door if you want to walk through it, and you can. Now you're saying, well, very few people walk through because they're all terrified. I don't care. Door's still open though, isn't it?
And it's been open since day one.
Right, exactly. That was the main problem. I was having major concerns with offering up the what was then called Google Hangouts link to the public because there was various different security issues that I'd have to try and work around as best as I could, and it's very difficult. Now, when that particular piece of software went away, there was a transitional period where I had to find some piece of software to give me a public gateway, and that's all I wanted from it. I just need a facility to offer a link to the public where they can join if they want to, and put their 2 pennyworth in. Now, if they choose not to, that's not my concern. I don't care. You know, without sounding rude to the people in Discord now, the people who are on the panel, there's a reason I've got 2 separate panels. One is the public gateway, one is my trusted panel. Now, if that isn't obvious already just by the way it's displayed, you know, and, you're not very bright, but that is just how it is. Now, that is the, you know, often people transition as well. There's I forgot what his name is now, but a guy recently I said, oh, add him to the Master B chat so that he can get into the meet, which is what it's now called. It's just Google Hangouts with a few alterations, but you know, all I want is a public gateway. And then whenever somebody says you should meet me X, Y, and Z, I'm like, I don't care. I have no interest in you. But what you're telling me is you have an interest in me. And you can fulfill that interest if you choose to. Now, does that concern me? Do I care that you've suddenly got a desire to debate me? No, because I've got a public gateway. Come and debate me then. Oh, but you do it like this. Yeah, I do. That's right. You don't like that? All right, I don't care. Literally, I couldn't give a toss. What, you'd win on your ground? Maybe you would. My point is, the desires of those who don't want to walk through the door that I offer don't concern me. Their excuses about how they would do so much better if they had me, yeah, that's their desire to have me on their quote-unquote neutral platforms. So which direction is the desire going? I don't watch these people. I've no interest. I disclaimed that earlier in the live show. I don't keep up to date with the anti-flat earth debate. I don't need to. There's obviously going to be a ruckus if they think they've got something good. I'll hear about it on the grapevine. One of my own will present the information, and that is precisely the only place I ever get any of the information from the anti-flat earth side. From the people I'm supporting. From the people when I watch their video, I'll watch their advert. I mean, the commercial advert that will make them some money. I'll sit through it. Now, am I going to do that for the people who are on the anti-flat earth side? Well, when I used to watch their videos, yeah. I'd thank them for the advert if they were making it about me. I'd watch their paid commercial if they had one, etc., etc. Support them as a YouTuber, in other words. Go on, whoever that was. Jin, causing a load of feedback.
Well, if you don't mind me interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Nathan.
I didn't know you wanted to talk. Go ahead.
No, but I was just going to say, you got a good product anyway. Your brand of flat earth debating has been a success from the outset, and long may it run, I will say, because it's a good platform. You're not really... You're standing your ground because you know the facts of both sides, the heliocentric model, the flat earth truth, and please come and debate me if you want. Like you said, the door is open. If you don't like what I'm doing, don't come back. Simple.
Right.
I mean,
and when the door was open originally, plenty of people wanted to walk through. Why? Well, because I didn't have a quantum eraser. That's why. And then once I got a quantum eraser, suddenly no one wanted to come anymore.
Silly. It's just down to them. It's a them problem. It's not a you problem, it's a them problem, obviously.
The arguments got much sharper once quantum eraser got involved and started honing everybody's arguments, getting them really shiny and sharp. Yeah? Well, before that, they'd raid the place, fill it up with ballers, and just bombard us with their nonsense.
Yeah, we've become too prickly now. That's good.
And sniping tactics.
Those were the early days.
All the crap. We would have to go 45 minutes before we could even have a coherent conversation because of all the tactics used on us by these globe idiots.
Yeah, the shenanigans. Yes, Chocolate, I can hear you there. Yes, the shenanigans you're talking about, yeah.
Good word, that.
Yeah, man.
Shenanigans. I love it. That's what they were. They'd come in and kick everyone out. So you'd have people join the Hangout, and you could get into the back door of the Hangout by going into the application on your phone that was a separate piece of software, but would show you everyone in the Hangout and give you the ability to eject people. So people would come in the back door, eject all of the flat earthers, and then the only conversation that would take place would be amongst globers ridiculing me. It was just me and 10 other people that were all globe believers because they kicked everybody on my side out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say even with that, the odds were on your side.
They needed to do that.
Funny.
You're right. They needed
what's
to.
Funny about that though is that that was back then when they're, I don't want to say they had an argument, but they still thought their arguments had standing, right? And they had all those tactics. But it's weird. I mean, I guess maybe because the parameters of the show have changed, but it's weird that they don't really try to apply those same tactics now, when their argument, that same argument they were using back then, is, hot garbage now, 10 times worse. I don't know. Like, I just feel like if you have an argument, you don't need tactics, right? You just come in and say, hey, this is where you didn't carry the one curvature here. Why are you coming in to porn bomb and kick everyone out? Like, I never understood that, but that for me was it started opening my eyes. Like, wow, these people are really taking it to another level. I thought this was just going to be a discussion getting into this. Like, why are they acting like this? It makes no sense.
Yeah. Childish at the end of the day. I've often said it. One flat earther is worth 1,000 globeheads. Easily.
Well,
good flat
earth. You come to the flat earth with some form of intellectual honesty, right? You come to that conclusion, right? So that's how they lose their numbers. See, they only gain numbers because people are born and then they teach people this crap, right? This is the only way their numbers gain. But they lose numbers every time somebody becomes a flat earther. And I think that's bothering them very much. They don't like that.
Yeah, we had the analogy earlier, Chocolate. So you've got the analogy of them falling down the hill, so the anti-flat earthers find out the information and start contemplating that it could all be a lie. In other words, they've already rolled down the hill, right? If they're contemplating it, they know about it. Well, after that, they've rolled down the hill, and then we're all shoved into the same exact boat, pushed out into a wide ocean. Together, flat earthers and anti-flat earthers all in the same boat. Now, the flat earthers are looking out going, wow, isn't it beautiful? And the anti-flat earthers are going, this is like hell. I want to throw every single person that reminds me of the hill I just rolled down out of this boat immediately, because that'll alleviate me of the pain that I'm now being subject to, and it's not my fault I'm subject to it. It's every other person in here talking about it and about how bloody wonderful it is. It's not wonderful, it's horrible. Let's kick them out of the boat. Let's drown them all.
Yep.
It's literally called poison by Jonathan in your chat. It's called Flat Earth Poison.
Because it is like poison to them. We're poison on their brain. And it hurts. Every single time we open our mouth and point out something that they have to contemplate that doesn't square, a circle that won't square, they're like, if you just hadn't said that, I wouldn't be in this pain. Therefore, it's your fault.
Virus said it the other day. Oh, you're making my head hurt. The back of my head hurts, or something like that. Like, yeah, you know why? Because you're trying to hold two positions at the same time.
If refractive
curvature isn't supposed to be doing that.
Laughing at us because he was laughing at us.
Yeah,
that's what we made it try to seem. But
yeah, okay.
Pain because what you just said. You're right.
Sure.
But that's what John described, right? While John was around more, he's got other things on his plate at the moment, but when he was around, he was an asset because he was really upfront about how he perceived the world when he was a Glober and his reactions to what we used to say. So he explained that it would infuriate him when I used to say, "In R you trust," because at the time he was under the understanding that he could measure R. Therefore, it used to get him really angry when I used to declare, "In R you trust." Now, obviously for him, he transitioned when he realised he couldn't measure R anymore. But the point is that he has gone through the process of explaining the spam comments and the trolling and all the things that he did as a Glober and why he did them. Well, because we were the enemy that was causing him to make these contemplations that he didn't want to have to contemplate. He just wants to get on with his normal life and know what he knows without having to concern himself with corrections that we've suddenly put into the fray. Well, you know, you've got to still convince yourself of your belief that you've got in the first instance. And when someone attacks it, you feel like you need to defend it. So they're on the defensive, and they feel that the best defensive strategy is to attack. So that's what they do.
But that's the question, right? You just said he might have just wanted to get back to his normal life. Well, why don't, if that's what they want, why don't they just get back to their normal
They can't.
Why continue to delve into this? Why does it drag you back every day? If you can't stand Nathan or any of us, why would you turn this show on every day?
They can't get back. They don't know. They're lost souls. When I say roll down the hill, eventually they're going to come up with the back. Go on, whoever that is.
They're looking for you to lose. That's why they watch the show every day.
Exactly. If I lose, they think that somehow that will stop them having to contemplate all the things that have been discussed. It's already too late for all of them. And I'm always going to refer back to the Conspiracy Cats interview with Haunted House. Albeit in the third person, he's describing his mate that would have to contemplate the pain of things that he thought were true, not being true, and having to worry about all those things not being true that at the moment are just definitely true. And that would be every mainstream rhetoric that you've ever encountered in any mainstream press ever. Right? All of those things suddenly need contemplation. Yeah, they do, don't they? Well, the fact that you can describe that in the third person means that you've already done it. And it's causing you pain. It's the pain we describe every single day. Well, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to try and alleviate yourself of that pain. And you go to the messenger. This messenger's caused me this pain. So let's kill the messenger. Yeah, that'll really help you sleep better. Not in a million years. You've rolled down that hill. You already know what you know. You've already seen what you've seen, and you can't unsee it. So you think you can scramble back up to the hill of not concerning yourself with anything that might contest or make your belief not true anymore. Because for every normie that's still at the top of that hill, they never even contemplated it. And the moment they do, they roll down the hill too. And you maybe think by stopping us being around, if other people don't roll down the hill, maybe that'll make it easier to climb back up to norminess. Because there's no constant reminders of those things that you occasionally contemplate and then shake. And go, no, don't contemplate that it all might be lies. And that's painful for them. So they blame us. The messenger.
Oh well. Deal with it. That's where we're at.
I don't even think it is the nature of the world that scares them. I think it is the fact that if there's a deception of that magnitude, just as a part of your everyday existence, that is so fundamental to your existence and nobody's recognising it. Number one, you'd think, well, that makes me really stupid for not recognising it in the first place. Obviously, I'm not that stupid, therefore I can't be wrong about my preconceived notions of a sphere Earth. They're all wrong. And I'll have to prove to them that they're wrong, because that'll prove how right I am about this preconceived notion I have about being on a sphere. And then every time something comes up that contests that, like I say, you feel like you've got to defend your faith. Well, their attack, that's why it's fight the flat Earth. That's their defense mechanism. They're trying to fight off the pain. It's not fight the flat Earth. It's fight the reality you're faced with and everything that reminds you of the reality you're not really dealing with, that you invested a lot of your time and effort in learning. And that's unfortunate. We all got to the same place. We all rolled down the hill together. But now you're at the bottom, you hate it, and we don't. which side of the fence do you want to be on? Doesn't mean to say that there aren't plenty of flat earthers out there that are absolutely furious about this and still live a life of pretty high levels of misery.
Don't forget Scandinavians against flat Earth.
Scandinavians against flat Earth?
Yeah, that's the thing Brian talked about yesterday. The guy Gottfeld or something.
Okay. This is news to me.
Well, you're definitely right about the scale of the lie, because I was literally told that again by my coworker who showed up on the show again yesterday. Like, it's just things that I say make sense, but as a whole, it cannot be true, because if it is true, then what else have they lied about? How can I accept anything? She even asked me, like, how do you, if you know everything is a lie, how do you even come to work? It's like, because I need to eat. I got bills to pay. Like, what? I'm supposed to just stop living my life because I know there are things that are lies? And it's not to say that everything is a lie. It's just there are a lot of things that are. Some things are not. And I have to take things on a case-by-case basis. But that doesn't mean I have to just remove myself from the system just because I know the system's fucked. I'm already in the system. You know, like, so I do what I can to maybe change a few people's, you know, not change their mind, but show people, you know, something else, a different way within the system. But that doesn't mean I'm just gonna quit and just go live in the fucking woods. Like, what the? That's crazy.
But Chocolate, didn't you find that there was a period of adjustment, even if it was only a week or two, where your brain felt like it was being ripped in two different directions?
Hold on. I'm really sorry, Flat Earth Solar. As much as I want to focus on chocolate for a second, which we do, chocolate's a regular, I'm more interested in what his co-worker said, who did appear on the show a couple of times, right? Now, that's projection. When she's like, how do you cope? That's projection. What that actually means is, how would I cope? And if she said, well, wouldn't you want to go out and live in the woods? It's like, that's mentally where she would go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she gives me props. She's like, I couldn't do what you do.
She already is.
All the time.
And we addressed that already when she was on, right? We already, after the fact, I might add, when you summarised her position more concisely than she did. It's like, so she's an anti-flat earth then. She's already done this. Maybe that's the tact you should take with her. Just say, you do realise that when you ask me these questions about how it could all be lies, you do appreciate that means you have already contemplated that.
Yeah. But you know what? There are so many things that she hasn't contemplated. You know, I messed her up yesterday by the whole people are living antipodal to you. You know, the sides of the earth, you know, it's raining sideways, right? Like, she didn't take the living on a ball to that reality level. I think that's what it is. Like, there's this disconnect. Like you see the ball on the TV screen or in your textbook, and it's cool, right? But if you don't apply that to your reality, because I said, listen, we live on a ball. If we live on a ball, I am on one position of this ball, and underneath the ball, on the other side, right, about 8,000 miles underneath my feet, there is a completely other existence of people, cities, buildings, oceans, that is completely antipodal to my position. She was like, I've never thought of that before. And I was just like, are you serious? I was thinking about this in the 4th grade. So, yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, if you don't think about it, you don't apply this to your reality, then it's really easy to just skate around it.
Right, but she can
like,
contemplate. But she has, by what she's confessed to you, she has contemplated that there are other lies that could be in effect and may require further contemplation, that could leave you in a state of disarray. She's basically, from what I've gleaned from what you've told me, she has told you That is the impression I get, that she's already contemplated these things and they're scary to her. Well, she, like the cat's example, is perfect because it exemplifies my point perfectly. There's a fear reaction that's going to come from people and they're going to act defensively. Now, you take that to the extreme and say, how can I take control of this further? Well, I'll go on the offensive against the people that remind me of these things that I may have to contemplate at some point, and they're scary. So, if you want to boil it down to this, what are our opponents like? They're like your typical school ground bully. And what is your typical school ground bully? Well, some kid that's in perpetual fear, probably being beaten up by his parents. Yeah? That's what these people are. They're the bully that when you get to know them, you realise that they've had a really hard life. Yeah? That's what these people are. Broken people that turn into bullies, thinking that their offensive will actually resolve their pain. And they're wrong. I know they're wrong. They don't. But they'll often give hints of how they, I don't know how to phrase it, sort of subconsciously contemplate these things. And then maybe detail them in the third person, or detail how they couldn't contemplate them, as your friend did, or your colleague did. You know, I couldn't contemplate that because... And then they tell you how they've contemplated it, basically.
Right. Glow belief is an addictive mind drug. Once you get addicted to it, then you believe that, like, the drug state, the actual enjoyment of those moments where you think it's real, that becomes a priority, like an addiction does. And then, yeah, they lose their minds over it.
Pretty sad, because it's comparable to people getting lost in video games, role-playing games. So yeah, the whole globe concept, this reified philosophy, it's all in your head. You're not living in that world. It's just a fantasy.
Yeah. But it kind of put me on my back foot yesterday with that. When I was just like, really? Like, you guys all believe this stuff. Why is it that you guys don't apply this stuff to your reality? Because I could see it in her face. She was disturbed by the idea that, you know, somewhere it's raining upside down to her, you know? Like, like that really bothered her. She was just like, you know, I've never thought, you might have a point, because how would life work that way?
What the hell did she think she was on a flat ball?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
The ball Earth is not about what really is, but about what you can believe about what really is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And in that sense, they are effective because they do spread their globe belief. They do keep on spreading the suggestions in the only place it matters, in people's minds, right? It doesn't matter what the world is really like. Only thing that matters to them is that more people believe it so they can share the dream and enjoy the drug.
But now it matters that more people believe it? Only why? Because we exist? Did it matter that other people...
We affect their mojo. It messes up their karma.
Well, it just feels like we've given them a purpose.
No, we're their cold turkey, or also known as the black swan. But you know that effect, right? Like people that smoke or drink and have trouble with it. Yeah, if you constantly talk about it, point out, oh, this is bad for your health. This is bad for health. Don't think about drinking or smoking. Yeah, what's going to happen? It's going to actually start up in your mind, and you're going to try to effectively avoid it, by which you effectively engage with thinking about it. And that effect is what we do have on the Globers and the anti-flat earthers. We constantly remind them about what they're not supposed to forget.
Exactly. We're a constant reminder. We're in the boat with them, talking about how wonderful the flat earth we're living on is. And as we're measuring our journey with the stars, triangulating them, they're like, kick them out the boat.
Yeah. Any Globers in Discord want to tell us what's what?
Yeah, it's been awfully silent for a Friday after show.
Don't make a mistake and say
Mic
upside
check,
down.
mic
when you're
check.
talking to them about it.
I'm simultaneously
Hello?
listening to
I can hear you.
YouTube
Can hear you.
Hold on,
Mic check,
hold on,
yes.
hold on, Eli. Sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Nathan,
Hello.
anything attached to Earth does not suffer from precession, correct?
What procession?
Well, their ludicrous fucking assumption that the Earth rotates. So if something is connected to the Earth, it cannot precess. Is this correct?
Not exactly, because you could have a gyroscope, which is technically attached to the rotating reference frame, but in terms of its motion, it's in free space, so it's spinning, and as the Earth is claimed to rotate underneath, the cage will move with it, but the gyro will stay in its fixed spinning position. So in that respect, no. But that's not true. It doesn't happen. But I'm just saying that's their claim, and in that respect, no. You could be attached and still show drift. In the respect of a pendulum, also it's attached, right? It's dangling from the roof of the building. Well, the claim is that it's swinging back and forth whilst attached, but that motion remains back and forth only. So therefore, when you see it knocking over dominoes, it's Earth rotating underneath, causing that not actual deflection, but still technically attached to the same reference frame, right? So there are exceptions, but for the most part, now I've got those two disclaimers out the way, yes, you are correct. If you are actually physically attached to the roundabout, you're part of the rotating reference frame. Therefore, what drift are you going to see? Well, you're attached to it. And if the ball that you're looking at is also attached to it, it's not drifting. It needs to be not attached to be showing the drift.
That's how I see it. And with the pendulum, surely that wouldn't drift if it was attached to the Earth.
Okay, it doesn't drift. Okay, I've
It
got to put.
shouldn't.
Okay, let's stop. It's complicated, so I've got to put my baller hat on and say everything I say from here on it forward is from a ball Earth perspective. So, Nate, oh, got a bit of feedback from you, Jin. So, with a ball Earther hat on,
That's
right?
me. I'm going to cut out. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. Pop yourself on mute. If you are Jin, please can you pop yourself on mute? Jin. Hello? Okay, clearly not. So, if you're a ball earther describing the pendulum, we'll stick with the pendulum for now. Are you okay with that, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Right. The pendulum swings back and forth. That's what pendulums do. You understand that the motion of a pendulum is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You with me so far?
Yes, yes.
Right. On a turning Earth, you will observe an apparent deflection in that motion. That's a back and forth only motion. That is to say that what you are observing in the pendulum isn't actually happening. Let me explain. On a turning ball Earth, you are watching a pendulum simply move back and forth, but because the ground beneath it is moving at a certain rate, you are witnessing the not actual deflection of the pendulum. It is caused by the rotation of the Earth underneath. So it's not actually deflecting at all. The reason it's knocking over the dominoes is because the ground beneath it is turning with respect to its back and forth motion. That's the claim by a glober.
Yes, I totally understand that. What I'm saying is, why would it need to swing if it did that, surely we could just put a line on it and the Earth would turn underneath it.
I would agree. So
Why
you're
would it need to swing?
You wouldn't. It would start swinging of its own volition.
They never do.
Yeah, but it would if Earth was turning underneath.
Yeah, that's right. If you put a pendulum onto a roundabout, it's going to move.
Right. Precisely, Arwin. Stick a pendulum on a roundabout, spin it at a slow rate. It's going to have an effect on the pendulum and it's going to start moving. It's not just going to stay completely perpendicular to the surface of the roundabout as it's spinning. That's absurd. It would just start moving of its own volition. And that's precisely what all suspended items would do on Earth if we turned. You'd start seeing motion in them. Do we see that? No. Do we see Earth turning underneath anything ever? No. So when they claim this effect, which has normally got a mechanical, gizmo at the top of it, and often they don't work. They start them and then they stop and then they have to fiddle around with it and start it and swing it in a particular way and all the rest of it. So that's just a parlour trick.
That's how I see it. I think it wouldn't need to be even swinging if we had this effect. It would just stand still and the base would rotate underneath it.
Yeah, us being underneath it and then watching the apparent motion start to be induced. That's right. Well, from its own reference frame, it's not actually moving at all. It's merely us moving underneath that makes it start moving. It's like, no. You hang a plumb line and it just stays there.
Exactly.
It would be all erratic from day to day because on the globe Earth is moving around the sun at a different angular rate from day to day. It would be all erratic. It couldn't, like, if it moves during an earthquake, if a pendulum moves during an earthquake, then it will move without rotation. They try and throw in this as a constant movement thing, so it wouldn't. It's complete and utter nonsense. They have electromagnetic motors in the one in the Los Angeles Observatory. If you look into that, Brian, they have electromagnetic motors and that make sure that it spins all the time and it spins in the desired globe direction.
You know what that means?
Always having to change.
Well, it would still have a constant centripetal force exerted to it.
They're always having to change. You know, like in universities and things like that, they have people who are assigned to these things to make sure they keep swinging and keep swinging in the desired direction. It's complete and utter BS.
It's not a pendulum.
And then you go outside and you see a bunch of wrecking balls that are just hanging very still.
Exactly.
Not moving at all. It's funny.
Unless there's a bit of wind.
Yeah, a little bit of wind to move it. Maybe. Depending on how heavy it is. But yeah, for the most part, it's perfectly still.
Yeah, it's just a nonsense assertion, and they dig out the parlour tricks with the gyros and the pendulums, and then when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's like, well, what is it? If it's being controlled by motors, it's not a pendulum.
Or Miley Cyrus.
You just come in like a wrecking ball.
I knew somebody was going to say that since I said wrecking ball.
Anyway, I think I'll leave you with that one to ponder over.
I hope we answered your questions satisfactorily.
Now I wonder what happens if you...
Sorry, Aaron.
Nah, I was just fooling around. I'm just thinking in my mind all of a sudden, what would happen if you take a wrecking ball and you would put a big gyroscope in the wrecking ball on the inside to kind of like, well, affect it with how gyroscope affect things. Like, what would that do? It probably would swing further by its own volition because of the gyroscope, but would it also give more or less impact? I wonder now. By the way, this has nothing to do with the Earth spinning.
No, it does not. But on that note, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!